Bestselling author Gayle Lynds. Gayle, thank you so much for joining us today. It's great to have you here. Gayle, can you hear me? Today, she'll be discussing The Assassins, her latest spy thriller. And best-selling author Nelson DeMille says that it will get you hooked on page one. So we certainly want to get you hooked on The Assassins too. We're going to kick off the question, Gayle, if you can hear me, and tell us a little bit more about The Assassins. And I think we might be having some technical difficulties, so just hang tight. Are you able to hear me? Hello? Hello, can you hear me? Really? So no problem. So put on the screen. What inspired this suspenseful heist story? I couldn't put it down. All right, we're just going to hang tight for a moment and see if she can see what's going through. And we're here today with Gayle Lynds, author of The Assassin, her latest spy thriller. Gayle, can you hear us? Can you see anything coming through?
Amanda, are you there?
Hi, can you hear me? Yes,
Hello?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I just have to look under my...
Hello?
Hello?
Hi. She just left the screen. Just hold tight for just a moment. We're getting this set up again. It's a little audio issue, but we should have it running up in a second. Hi there, can you hear me? Okay.
Hello?
Hi, can you hear me? Hi.
I am, but I don't hear anyone. Amanda, are you asking me questions? Yes. Where did you come up with the idea to make him a former U.S. Army spy? So, oh, okay. This is what happens when you're a novice. I apologize, everyone. Where did you come up with the idea to make Judd Ryder a former U.S. Army spy? Well, let's face it, spies are fascinating people. And I love to write about secrets because everybody has secrets, and anything that's kept secret becomes, just by the nature of secrecy, important. So I have dealt with MI6 spies, I've dealt with CIA spies, I've dealt with Mossad, all kinds of different spies, but I have actually never done a U.S. Army spy. And I have a tremendous amount of respect for what the military has done, undercover, gathering information, doing analysis. So I sort of wanted to honor that and also give my chance to explore an area that I didn't know a great deal about. So Judd Ryder gave me that opportunity, and I must say I really enjoyed creating him and enjoyed writing him very much. Is there another question?
Yeah, there we go. Okay. I'm just going to refresh the page, and she's going to answer the questions manually if anyone can hear me.
There we go. Is that good? Good. Oh my gosh. Technological heaven is when everything works. Okay, let's go. I'm eager to hear what's the next question. What is the next question?
Sure.
I don't.
Okay.
Oh, what's on my must-read list? Okay, I am actually reading a great deal about Russia because my next book is set in Russia. So I'm learning about Moscow, the politics over there. And I couldn't have picked a better time with what's going on with Putin. It's like a warming up of the old Cold War. So my nonfiction list is filled with Russia and Moscow and the geopolitics involved there. And on fiction, I have recently read Melody Johnson Howe's mystery novel starring Diana, whose last name I can't remember. And I'm reading Hank Philippi Ryan. Nelson DeMille's new book is out just a couple of weeks ago, and I'm really loving it. So I don't read a great deal of fiction when I'm writing because I'm kind of a mimic, and I don't want to be terribly influenced. But when I can read for fun, I love fiction.
Absolutely.
Next question. Who was the hardest character to write for? Gosh. Oh, you know what I have a really hard time doing? And I think it's because I'm female. It's hard for me to write women. And I sometimes think that distance is an elixir. So because I'm not male and I find men fascinating, slightly mysterious to me. So when I can get inside a male character's head, like Judd Ryder or like the Carnivore, who is a returning character, I believe this is his fourth book, or Tucker Anderson, who is a wonderful CIA undercover op who is at the perhaps end of his career. There are people who want to put him out to pasture, and he is not going. He's going to stay working because he really loves the work. So these men, to me, are rich gold mines for me to go in and explore. And the women, who I don't care about this much because that's like me.
Yeah.
Okay, who else? What is
so
the next question?
Who's the hardest character to write for? We covered that. And then how about, have you ever traveled to Iraq? Someone wants to know.
Oh, yeah. No, I did not. One of the fun things that I enjoy about writing is I have been to a number of the places that I write about. But most people can't tell which ones I've actually been to and which ones I have simply researched. And I will let you in on a secret that I have not been to Baghdad.
Impressive.
However, I had a number of people who had been, and I just do intense research. And by the time I'm finished with all that, I feel as if I've been there. I'm sort of a Walter Mitty type that way. Oh, I love Eva Blake. Did you do research regarding CIA? You betcha I did. And that's not hard. That's not easy to do. Okay, this is a funny story. I was flying somewhere. I was on a plane, and the person sitting next to me was a young man. Oh, I'd say late 20s. To me, that's very young. And he had gone to school at Williams and Mary, which is in Virginia, out near the farm. And he was telling me that when he was in his dormitory, his roommate, and he would look out and they'd see people just standing across the street on the curb observing. And became
Mhm.
obvious after a while that people were doing this quite frequently, and they were being sort of recycled. Sometimes they'd return, sometimes it would be new people. And he had a roommate who had a parent who was CIA. And that's how I found out that Williamsburg is an unwitting area where CIA trainees go and train. And they use ordinary people on the street. So go to Williamsburg, all of you, and you may be part
Yeah.
of a CIA operation training experience and
Oh,
never even
wow.
know it. I know, isn't that one? That's how I, yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's
of course,
fascinating.
I have friends who are in one of the intelligence agencies or another, and others who are retired. A few years ago, I was fortunate to take a group of authors into Langley, and we had a full
Oh,
day
cool.
of briefings and tours, and yeah, it was pretty cool.
That's fantastic. And so we have a question from Kate about the International Thriller Writers, which you started with David Morrell. What made you want to create something like this?
It
Such
was
a
a
great
spontaneous
thing.
eruption. A group of us thriller writers, Vince Flynn, Kathy Reichs, David, me, and a couple of other
Mhm.
people had been invited to Barbara Peters' Poison Pen um, bookstore workshop over a weekend. No one had ever really done a thriller writers conference, and this was basically to teach writing thrillers. But what we found was a number of people came who were simply fans, readers. They wanted to
Yeah,
come and meet us and have us sign their books. And that told us that
yeah.
there really was an interest in our particular genre. And
Hmm.
mostly thriller writers. I find that mystery writers are a lot more social and outgoing. And thriller writers, we tend to sort of go in our offices and close the door. And we don't mingle as much, but we miss each other. So when we get the chance, we really love
Yeah,
it. So there was a lot of conversation, and we were terribly impressed by the readers who showed up because they indicated they really wanted to
that's
be
great.
able to meet us, talk to us. And
Hmm.
so ITW was born out of that one gathering. David and I, somehow we got elected co-presidents, and we started it, and a lot of wonderful people have come along. Next was Steve Barry and Jim Rollins, and it's a fine group of people.
Yeah,
Dave and I are both very proud.
right. And it's coming up next week. It's crazy. It's already here. Now,
Thriller
your
Fest.
background, has your investigative journalism background come in handy when it comes to writing thrillers? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, it has, and it's been enormously important because as a journalism school graduate and as a newspaper reporter, you do not screw up with the facts because if you do, you lose the
Right.
trust of your readers, you lose the trust certainly of your editors. So accuracy was, you know, sine qua non. You had to be accurate. So with that sort of background, I find that I love the research. I love digging in, and so that when I can present information to readers in my novels while they're having a good time with the adventure, they can trust that it's accurate. Now, I do make mistakes, and I am horrified when I do, but they slip through. But by and large, I've carried that trust with me throughout my career. I like research. I want to learn when I'm reading. I want to have a lot of fun. But when I
Right.
leave a book, I want to feel enriched, like it was a real worthwhile
Hmm.
journey.
Absolutely. And can you tell us more about the Book of Spies, which was the prequel to The Assassins?
The Book of
Give
Spies,
everybody a little taste.
that was born out of an experience I had back in the 1980s. I was drinking my cup of coffee in the morning and reading the Los Angeles
Mhm.
Times, and there was an amazing article about Ivan the Terrible's lost library of gold-covered um, illuminated manuscripts. Well, I'd never heard of
Hmm.
this, and the mayor of Moscow was on the hunt for it. There were people who claimed
Right.
that Stalin had found it and then put a swimming pool over it so it couldn't be dug up because he wanted to look forward rather than backward at the great history of Russia. And
Right.
so I started doing research. But when I heard that phrase, library of gold-colored covered books, it became in my mind library of gold. And so I carried that clipping around for 10 or 15 years. I write contemporary, not what am I going to do with a
Mhm.
story that dates back to the 1600s. And eventually I had to come up with a new book idea, and I told my editor about it, and he loved it. And he said, so what are you going to do with
Mhm.
it? And I said, oh. And what happened was, of course, the library itself. I wanted to find the library gold in the book, which I did. And the people who own the library and have over the centuries are a cabal of very wealthy people who pass their wealth on to one another, their connections, their power, and they are
Yeah.
caught up in a financing scheme that finally reveals them.
Mhm.
That was fun. I liked that one a lot.
Great.
Oh,
Now,
and Judd
Lexi
Ryder and
loves
Eva
craft
Blake come back.
fest.
Pardon?
Yeah. Lexi wants to know if you're teaching any craft fest courses this year.
Yes, I am. I teach, I think it's the 9 Secrets to Writing a Great Thriller. And I cover everything from dialogue, mood, plot,
Mhm.
suspense. When I was starting out, there really is a difference between writing a mystery and a thriller. And when I was starting out, there were
Mhm.
many, many classes about how to write a crime novel, how to write a detective novel, how to write a mystery novel. But nobody ever talked about thrillers. So, and at that time, I was married to Dennis Lynds, aka Michael Collins, who well, he was because he passed away a few years ago, unfortunately.
Mhm.
He was an Edgar-winning detective novelist, and he and I would sit
Yeah.
at the breakfast table reading the newspaper, and we would sometimes find an article that appealed to both of us. And then I would say, well, how would you use
Mhm.
it? And then I would tell him how I would use it, and we would use it in very different
Wow.
ways. So there is a different way of looking at a thriller, and because I had to struggle with that, he couldn't help me. I wanted to pass
Huh.
on what I had learned the hard way and make it, I hope, a little easier for those who follow.
Mhm. Now, we have a question about wet work. What is wet work?
Wet work, a murder, my dear. Wet work refers to blood and bodily fluids that happen in violent death. Yeah.
Ah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You can say whack, grease, eliminate, um, terminate. I mean, the synonyms go on. And I think they started basically because people were talking about murder and they didn't want to use the word
Yeah.
murder or kill. So a number of
Mhm.
synonyms. I invented one myself, wipe.
Oh, that's great. We have a message from Bill Moore. He says, Gail, I have an African violet for you.
Oh, good, Bill. We lost touch. Bill Pete. That's Bill Pete Moore. And I haven't forgotten you. It's
Hi.
just
Hi,
with the new
Bill.
book is coming out. I'm way behind, but thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bill.
So we have another question about why so long between books?
Ah, darn good question. Well, as many of you know, my dentist died a few years ago, and
Right.
I had taken care of him for 2 years, and I'd taken care of my father who had Alzheimer's for 10. So, and I
Wow.
was writing books the whole time and raising children, and my body just said, okay, we're going to take a time out. And
Stop.
that's what happened. I
Mhm.
did. I had to, and I had what they call adrenal collapse, which is fine because
Oh,
you come
wow.
back. It's just, it says,
Yeah.
stop. And I didn't,
Yeah.
I didn't stop writing, but what it did was it slowed me down a lot. And since that last book, I'm married again, and I'm so happy. I live in Maine with this wonderful man, John
Wonderful.
Sheldon, and I'm
Oh.
partway through the next novel. I think I'll be getting back on an 18-month, um, and then eventually a
Oh,
12-month
excellent.
delivery date again. Yeah, it's great to be back.
Excellent. Now, we have a couple other questions just about your craft and kind of your writing process. So let's see what we have. We have Alex says, how long does it usually take you to write a novel? A couple of
Well,
months?
Oh, I wish I could see it in months. Because remember, I am writing books that are so thoroughly researched that when you finish reading them, you really feel like I'm an authority, which is a lie.
Right.
Because fiction writers lie for a living. So my job
Mhm.
is to make it so real that you feel that way. But to do that, I really do educate myself. And as I'm educating myself,
Right.
I write and plan scenes and do the outline. I do the whole thing. So, and there are other writers like Dennis who hated to research, and he never researched, and he put out a book a year. And one year he put out 3 books. I'm in awe of
Oh,
that. I
wow.
wish I could do that, but I can't. So, but you can count
Wow.
on me coming back a lot faster now.
Yeah, excellent. We're excited to hear that. Now, Susan wants to know what thriller writers would you say are really hot right now? Who are you kind of into?
Well, David Morrell has a wonderful new series out, the
Hmm.
historical series of detective stories that take place in, I
Right.
think, Victorian England. I like that one a lot. I'm crazy
Hmm.
about Nelson DeMille. I'm crazy about Lee Child and Lisa Gardner. I love Catherine Coulter's FBI series. I think it's a wonderful series. Jim Rollins
Yeah,
is always
absolutely.
high on my list.
Yeah.
Let's see. Doug Preston, a fellow Mainer.
Yeah,
He's so interesting to me because of his combination of history and books and thrillers. I'm not.
absolutely.
I
And
could go
now
on and on.
co-authoring.
Yeah. Oh, and
Yeah, that's great though.
one of my proteges is going to have a book out in 2016. His name is Anthony Franz, and he
Oh,
writes
yeah.
legal thrillers set in the U.S. Supreme Court. Now, isn't that an interesting
Oh,
idea?
wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, have you faced any obstacles when you're co-authoring a book? That's from Lexi. She wants to know a little bit about that.
About the difficulties of co-authoring? Is that the
Mm-hmm.
question?
Or
Okay.
do you, yeah, or do you find it easy, or have you had any, kind of issues with different styles?
I think that the hardest part about co-authoring is to accept that you are two different people. And everybody brings something to the table that's good, and it's best if you
Right.
can fit together like a good marriage. I
Mm-hmm.
have collaborated with John, my new husband, on 3 short stories, and he took the lead
Excellent.
on 2 of them, and I took the lead on one of them, and it
Mm-hmm.
was it was a wonderful experience. I think that when
Yeah.
you have to have a big ego to do what we do, to write novels,
Mm-hmm.
because it's kind of a
Yeah.
publishing is a brutal world. So you've got to have the ego. Otherwise, you'd never put words on
Right.
paper. But there comes a point where the ego is a drag on you. And
Mm-hmm.
you have to be smart enough to leave your ego at the door and look at the manuscript and say, does the manuscript work? Why doesn't it? Or where does it work? Can we make it better? And that's to me the
Yeah,
heart of the
absolutely.
collaboration is when everybody brings their best to the table.
And I heard that your husband inspired the Assassins. Is that true? Was there parts
Uh,
of it that he was inspired by?
John came in after I had started writing it, but he was instrumental in
Mm-hmm.
helping me shape it. And there's one section in there that he actually wrote the first draft for. It takes place I'll tell you,
Mm-hmm.
it's a secret. It takes place at the end of the book.
Oh.
I was like 3 days away from turning the book in, and
Mm-hmm.
I got the flu.
Oh
Terrible
no.
timing. Who wants to get the flu when you
Ugh.
want to turn the book in and feel good?
Right.
And so it was
Ugh.
4 a.m. I'm lying in bed at that point. We had just moved into this
Mm-hmm.
house. At that point, John's office was in our bedroom. It was a big bedroom. And he got up at
Mm-hmm.
4 a.m. I sort of sketched out what needed to happen, and he sat down and he just barreled out a scene. It was like smoke was coming out of his fingers. He did it so fast and it was
That's
so
amazing.
graphic. And what he'd done is he'd sketched out and he'd written some nice pieces of dialogue, and it was an incredible experience. I've never seen anybody do that. So he gave it to me, and
That's
a
great.
few hours later, when I was feeling better, I could take what he'd done, and I massaged it and polished it here and there. So there's that one part that's John.
That's teamwork at its finest.
Yeah, we're not
That's great.
divorced.
You're like, this is all wrong. This is wrong. Now, speaking of the assassins again, there's lots of great twists and turns in the book. And I was wondering, do you plan out your plot twists or do they come to you as you're writing? Do they ever kind of surprise you?
I can plan ahead a few chapters, or I did in that book anyway. I did something in that book,
Yeah.
I swear to God, I will never do again. I basically wrote 6 novels in one. I
Oh my
didn't
gosh.
realize, because I wanted to write about 6 different assassins, because I think that in our culture, we kind of view assassins as being indistinguishable. And they're really not. They all have their own little hopes,
Yeah.
their own dreams, and their own fears. And I wanted to be able to display that. And that meant that each one of them had to be an individual. And if you got an individual, they all have to have their own story. And I just complicated my life no
Mhm.
end by doing it. But I think the result is wonderful. I'm so pleased with
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
That's
Especially when
great.
they mix it up, when they
And
have to go up against each other. But I guess my point
yeah.
is, when you're structuring a book, the stories, because I write several viewpoints, they have to intersect. And so that means you're always bringing
Yes.
things back. So, no, I wish I
Mhm.
could have planned that whole book. It would have been 4 years faster. But the book that I'm working on now, I'm planning it. So
Mhm.
I never
Yeah.
know.
We have questions about your next book. So Chase says, when will your next novel be coming out? We can't wait for it. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Oh, yeah, I can't wait either. Well,
You're like, oh, I'm over
yeah,
it.
the tentative title right now is The Choir Master. You are the first to know. I've
Ah,
not said that publicly
ooh,
yet.
exciting.
I like that title.
That's amazing.
And it's the
Yeah,
story
that's
of
great.
a nuclear scientist in Moscow
Hmm.
who went up against
Okay.
Putin. And now he's got to get out of town.
Oh,
And he has a daughter.
yeah.
And there's a CIA
Oh, that's
guy
fascinating.
involved. And, I think it's going to be a
Uh-huh.
great adventure. And
Yeah.
well, I hope that we'll be able to do some interesting things with politics between the Kremlin and Capitol Hill.
Yeah. Wow, that's fascinating. I love that title.
Thank
Um,
you.
Felicity wants to, what's the best piece of advice writing wise that you've ever received? Does anything stick out in your mind?
And this is what I tell my students when I do teach. I'm going to use Picasso. Okay. Picasso started as a young child as a realist
Hmm.
painter, and
Hmm.
he learned all the rules, and he got very, very good. So by the time he started to explore Cubism and all the other periods that he went through, he knew what he was
Right.
doing. And when you know what you
Hmm.
can do, you can break the sound barrier. So
Yeah.
to me, it's a professional writer's job to learn the rules and learn them really well.
Hmm.
Get them,
Yeah.
every arrow in your quiver, and then break them.
Hmm.
Because if you break the rules,
Great
you're
advice.
adding not only to literature, you're giving a gift to your readers and to yourself, because the writing is so much more interesting, it's so much more alive. So that's my advice. Learn the
Hmm.
rules and then break them.
I love that. Now, social media, so we can stay up to date with your newest releases and Thriller Fest info. Where can we find you on social media?
I am on, I think, well, probably not. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Google
Hmm.
Plus, LinkedIn, and of course,
Excellent.
there's always my website,
Yeah, you're
www.gaylynds.com.
on
Yeah, yeah,
all the
but I
big
tend to
ones.
focus on Facebook. Oh, and I'm on Goodreads too. I like Goodreads. But I tend to focus on Facebook
Yeah.
because people actually
Hmm.
write me and I can answer.
Yeah.
I like that. I get to
Yeah.
meet people who read, and they can actually give me ideas for
Exactly.
books, and they tell me about
Hmm.
their lives, and I love my readers.
Yeah, that's amazing. Do they ever give you ideas for like character names or just or like events? Is there anything that, they really helped you with in any of the books?
Yes, in fact, there are several character names from my readers in the book that's coming out. And until
Hmm.
June 1st, I had a message on my on my home page of my website where
Oh.
people could send their names into me, and I put them into a big hat
Mhm.
and then indiscriminately choose names because I think it sort of fits whatever
Yeah.
that character is. And they have to promise they don't mind being dead or a villain or ugly or ancient or a
Yeah.
baby. They have to promise they don't care because it's just their name that I'm using. But that's nice. I like to do
Exactly.
that, and it's another way for me to connect
Yeah.
to readers. And now I've got a new thing on my website for I actually have historic bookmarks going all the way back to the coil, and people can get free bookmarks
Oh, wow.
by going to my website and just following the directions. You have to send in a self-addressed stamped envelope because it makes it easy for me. And then I'll autograph the
Yeah.
bookmark the way you want it.
Oh,
I like things
fantastic.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys should check out her website for the bookmarks. That's fun. Um, Lexi wants to know, and I think this is going to be our last question. We're just about out of time, but I thought this was kind of fun. Any advice for your younger self before you became a best-selling author? So if you could go back and give yourself some advice.
Oh, despair. I think, people think writers are, not everyone thinks this, but a lot of people believe the movies, that you really, you're born
Right.
a writer and you don't have to learn anything. And somebody years ago, thank goodness, said to me, from the time you make the commitment to being a published author, you have
Hmm.
to figure 10 years. And that means there's a
Yeah.
very long apprenticeship, a very long period in which you're really learning to be good.
Yeah.
And one of the unfortunate things that I see happening today is that people aren't patient with themselves. If
No.
you didn't know how to play the piano and you started taking lessons, you would not
Exactly.
expect in 3 years to be playing on the stage
No.
at Carnegie Hall. But if you're a
Exactly.
writer who wants to publish a novel, because we're a highly literate society, the assumption is if you can read, you can write. And
Hmm.
it's a skill
Hmm.
like learning to play the piano. So if someone had said
Exactly.
early on, slow down, calm down, you're doing the right thing, you're
Yeah.
learning to do it well, then I think
Exactly.
it takes pressure off you. But spouses, boyfriends,
Yeah.
girlfriends, parents, children get impatient with you. And I've
Hmm.
always thought there needs to be a book, How to Live with a Writer.
Yeah. Right? That's perfect. Everybody wants instant gratification, but good things take time. As the Assassins is a wonderful book that we're so glad you came by to talk about today. And good luck with Thriller Fest. And everyone can find her on Facebook, Twitter, Google Plus, and we're thrilled to have talked to you today. Thank you again, Gayle, for stopping by.
My pleasure. Thank you, Amanda. Delightful time. Bye.
Yeah, take care. Thanks.